Welcome to A Bird in the Hoof, the first episode we've gotten pretty much since the series started where Celestia actually gets like a speaking and character role and isn't just showing up to be princess and do princess things, which is really nice. It's a breath of fresh air. It's also, I think, our first Fluttershy focused episode. I think so. Hang on, I'm gonna check. Oh, right, never mind, Stairmaster. Although Stairmaster is more of like CMC focused, but Fluttershy is also like a main character for that one. Dragonshy is also sort of focused on her, but Rainbow also takes a lot of it, as well as the rest of the main cast. And even like the Paris Sprite episode is focused on everyone rather than just Fluttershy, even though she has a major role. Fluttershy tends to fill a lot of major roles without ever being the main primary focus. So it was nice to get a lot of scenes with her just by herself. Anyway, bad friend point goes to Fluttershy. And you know, I do kind of want to give Twilight one as well for making the situation even worse. So you know what? Yeah, sure, we'll give Twilight one as well, because she does make the situation worse. She doesn't create the situation, but does exacerbate it. What is this, the 5th or 6th opening with Fluttershy? She may not get the most dialogue or character progression, but she does get the most openings. Anyway, we see her being the local vet, a fact I don't think has been directly established. We all kind of assumed, and it might have been established officially, but I don't remember it being done. We know she took care of animals, but not that she was like actually trained in medical treatment of them, even though her treatments we see in this episode are just sort of very basic. But hey, it's an expansion of her knowledge pool, so that's something. The writers give Angel a fun Alice in Wonderland reference to do here, you know, because Bunny running with clocks, a fun gag. Angel Bunny charades out that Fluttershy is late for a date. No, not that kind of date. Princess Celestia is hosting a brunch at Sugar Cube Corner. Celestia hype. She also will be a character in this episode for a little bit anyway, instead of just being a cameo or, you know, a plot thing. This is also a rare moment where Angel Bunny is actually nice to Fluttershy and helps her out, instead of being an absolute degenerate. Why is Rarity's clothing rack at Fluttershy's? Damn it, show, get new props! I was saying Angel was being nice, but he, right? I think it's a he. He just wants to be alone and have the house to himself. We arrive at Sugar Cube Corner, and Rainbow asks some of the guards how to become a royal guard. And of course they don't answer because they're on duty, but Rainbow's gonna do that annoying thing tourists do in London and try to break the Queen's Guard. Rarely ends well. Also, since when does Rainbow Dash care about being a guard? She wants to be a Wonderbolt, which I guess are technically guards, but sky guards? I don't know. I feel a bit bad for them. They may be useless, but no one deserves to be subject to Rainbow Dash's chicanery. Fluttershy arrives shortly after Rainbow gets bored, and they bar her path with their wings. We saw Celestia's carriage out front, so it tracks that she would need Pegasi guards. Glad they kept that consistent. Though I'm not sure if we've seen non-Pegasi guards yet, since we haven't been to Canterlot, aside from episode 1. And yeah, I know there are unicorn guards in the intro. I don't count the intro for most things. As Flutter tries to shy away from the scene, Twilight comes to her rescue. Twilight also treats the guards with respect. They're really trying to make the guards seem effective or good at their jobs, like we haven't seen them getting jobbed by Nightmare Moon. Not to their discredit, to be fair, because it's Nightmare Moon, but also Rainbow Dash throwing clouds at Celestia and them not doing anything because they're flippin' worthless. And we will continue to never see the guards accomplish anything as far as I'm concerned. Even later on with Shining Armor, his potential usefulness is just false. Though he does get to fire off the final hurrah, he uses Cadence's magic to help him do so. So even the guard captain's a jobber. Real rough time for all of them. Also, I never really noticed it, but the guards are almost exclusively stallions, which I guess explains why they're useless. They even have Spike helping in the kitchen. Nice to see him being included, but again, with child labor, of course. We see Mr. and Mrs. Cake doing their best to host, but also the other guests that were invited to Celestia's brunch, aside from her favorite pupil and her friend. We have Amethyst Star back there again, as well as Golden Harvest, and everyone else is a random backgrounder whom I refuse to learn the names of. Know who's missing despite the fact that their inclusion would be quite obvious to, do? Mayor. Remember her? She hasn't appeared in so long. I wasn't kidding when I said she became obsolete super fast. Fluttershy is surprised at Twilight's nervousness and thinks they're alike in their difficulties with social settings. Instead, Twilight explains that, nope, she just wants Celestia to approve of her friends. Kinda like Celestia is her parent. Their relationship is complicated. But we're actually seeing more of Twilight's lack of confidence in herself. I think the last time we saw this was in Winter Wrap-Up, maybe another episode that I just don't remember. That episode didn't involve Celestia, of course, but we do know that Twilight is still not very big on the confidence side. Fluttershy then brings up that Celestia already met them all before, and Twilight compounds that statement with, she's also read about all of you in my letters. But this is the first time that she's spending an extended amount of time with them together in person, which is fair. Twilight also needs the affirmation from Celestia that she made good friends and didn't actually accidentally make bad ones, which is sad, of course. Also, what in the duck kind of fashion is this? This is a tablecloth. It covers only her cutie mark and has no style or design to it. Is it here because the animators didn't want to have to draw a cutie mark? Probably. But why would this pony wear this in universe? Maybe she's anxious about her cutie mark and doesn't want the princess to see it? I don't know. I'm going to start making up a random backstory for this random backgrounder, and I need to stop. We finally see Rarity, as we haven't really seen any of the other main 6. Also, I think that's her gala dress. Her hair is also knotted in a diamond shape, and I'm not entirely sure how she did that, but it's a great detail. If I had to guess, there's probably like a physical diamond-shaped object inside the mane that it's being wrapped around. I don't know. I think that's how normal hairstylists do it in our world. Either way, let me confirm that is her gala dress. wow, it actually is. I'm surprised I remembered it. But more surprised she would use it here before the gala. I guess that's one way to gauge if it's as appealing as she wants it to be, but she's so paranoid and aggressive about others getting near her that Fluttershy and Twilight are concerned. So like, why would she wear this to a sticky candy cake and party shop, even if Celestia is here? Her desire to impress is overpowering her sensibilities. And here's Applejack, who's trying to figure out what to eat, and apparently, more importantly, what order to eat it in, to the point she just decides to leave it all and not eat anything, just from panic of offending Celestia somehow. We've never seen Celestia act as anything but kind and polite, so their reactions are somewhat concerning. What have they seen from her that we haven't? Or are they just overthinking everything and acting like fools? Oh, it's just that? Okay. And they finally show us Celestia, who's trying to enjoy some sweets, as we know she's wont to do, as Pinkie just sort of yoinks her cupcake without any hesitation, demonstrating Pinkie's social blindness again, as well as Celestia's patience. I'd pull out the Pinkie upsetting her friends clip again, but I don't think she considers Celestia a friend. Probably thinks she's out of her realm. Also, how does the almighty Princess of Equestria act in the face of ill manners and robbery of food, you may ask? She gives a warm, heartfelt smile, looking like she's got nothing but pride in her student's ability to make friends with someone so different from herself. Then, when the cakes come in and swipe Pinkie away and bring Celestia new things, bowing and lessening themselves, she looks sad, disappointed even, because at the end of the day, they denied her the opportunity to make a friend, the opportunity to socialize with someone not from Canterlot. They're depriving her of relationships, which is probably why she values Twilight so much. It's a relationship that she can have and control without anyone else interfering, not in a possessive or fully manipulative way, but just in a, I can see her whenever I want, I can send her a letter whenever I want. It's such a mundane thing to every other pony, but to Celestia, she's being ostracized by her own subjects, because they're all placing her on like a random pedestal. This is why Celestia and Twilight's future friendship is so important to Celestia's character, and why it drives me up a wall to see her act out in certain future episodes. There are 2 later season episodes with Celestia demonstrating negativity. One of them is pretty good and pretty deep, compelling even. The other is a trash fire that will host the full rant in it. For now, this has been a bite-sized example for everyone. And yes, I know why she's put on a pedestal. She's the only alicorn, aka the only immortal god on the plane of existence until Luna comes back. So they kind of put her on a pedestal because she's literally an immortal god. I get it. But still, she's a fucking human being. Well, you know, a pony, but the same idea applies. And we even get to see more of Celestia's playfulness on display. The cakes are being overbearing and filling her teacup constantly, and while she's thanking them every time, you can see the worry begin to set in as she's getting ready for an awkward repetition. So she pulls out her secret weapon. She fakes drinking her tea. And since they're effectively in autopilot don't offend mode, they automatically pour without thinking, and it overfills, spilling onto the table. She even literally exclaims "gotcha" in a quiet, playful tone. A beautiful display of elegance, playfulness, and diffusing of an awkward or tense situation through humor. She is actively trying to humanize, or well, ponyize herself to her subjects so they loosen up around her. She wants a connection, something she doesn't just have right now. She does have her sister now, but we don't get any episodes with them for a while. And I can speak from experience when I say that only having family to interact with isn't really enough all the time, especially when you have to live for 1,000 years without them. Twilight gets anxious again for some reason, likely at the cakes being overbearing despite her being the same exact way. Celestia then tries to start a conversation with Fluttershy, and Fluttershy hands it well. Celestia connects with her by talking about her love of woodland creatures, even shortly after this pulling out her own pet. Well, not pulling out, technically it's supposed to be on the right side of the frame is the bird cage, but whatever, we'll see in a second. Celestia remarks that she also likes taking care of animals, and we see her cage next to her that definitely wasn't there in the previous shot. She also mentions that she cares for all creatures big or small, which hasn't really been demonstrated so far. It will be demonstrated a little bit towards the end of this episode, but we could use more of this side of her if I'm being honest. And then Celestia also talks about how she cares for the well-being of all her subjects, including the little animals Fluttershy takes care of. This is set in contrast to the seemingly ill or suffering pet that she has named Philomena, which to Fluttershy and the audience looks like a deeply unwell bird of some kind. Despite the concerning sputtering, Celestia wears an extremely wholesome smile towards Philomena, as we're led to believe that she cares for it greatly, but also that she may be inept at dealing with animals. But would the centuries-old alicorn really be that bad at taking care of an animal? Unfortunately, Princess Celestia has to call the party short as, oh snap, Mayor called for her! She still exists! Good for her. Also, Lyra 36 and Bon 41. And so, after Celestia leaves, and we get a bunch of gags from the main 6, Twilight remarks that she's not entirely sure how that went, but at least no big disaster happened, as it cuts to Philomena, who was left behind for some reason and is now missing. Seriously, why was Philomena left behind? There were 2 guards outside, one came inside to get Celestia, so the other should have grabbed the bird. Why didn't Celestia carry the bird with magic if she cared for it so much? This feels like an oversight on everyone's part, but hey, we wouldn't get an episode without it, so here we go. Oh no, shocker, Fluttershy took the seemingly sick bird. Who could have foreseen such circumstance? For real though, Fluttershy kidnapping the princess princess's pet is such a hard move. She doesn't give a damn about any laws if an animal's in trouble. I respect the hell out of her for this move, even if it is the completely wrong move and really stupid. Fluttershy exposits to Philomena that she'll nurse her back to health, as Princess Celestia is obviously far too busy to do so. We as the audience saw and recognized that Celestia was smiling and happy at seeing Philomena in such a state, telling us she's either really inept to an uncharacteristic degree, or that she knows something we don't, which is good storytelling. Having other characters miss such an obvious sign is a little unfortunate, but Fluttershy's vision was likely tunneled onto Philomena after seeing her, and she wasn't watching Celestia's expression. Celestia was also immediately called away before she'd explain more about Philomena, so I think this conflict works okay. Fluttershy also comments on how Celestia will surely appreciate the help. Fluttershy has demonstrated that she holds no blame towards Celestia for Philomena's condition, which is either out of fear of speaking poorly of the princess, or admiration of a kind and just ruler that she assumes is struggling with personal matters. Either way, it speaks to Fluttershy's character, and as we all know, she definitely means it in the most kind way possible, so likely just truly thinks Celestia is busy. I don't know how much sarcasm and passive aggression we get from Fluttershy outside of episodes where her personality is being messed with, but I feel like it's best to interpret her in the kindest way possible, as that tends to be correct. Fluttershy plays the blanket and ice pack game, and Philomena reacts terribly to both, which, whether that's intentional on Philomena's part, or just her species have a delicate homeostasis, it's being played mostly for gags, and if I remember correctly, Philomena shares Celestia's playful nature, and is most likely just messing with Fluttershy. I'll confirm it at the end of the episode because Celestia directly states it. Now Fluttershy tries to bait Philomena into taking drugs. Well, medication. But another hint as to Philomena's intelligence is her avoidance of said pill. But before that, look at Fluttershy's face. It's so confident, but in like the cutest way. She thinks she's getting one over on this little animal. She even breaks the fourth wall to say it, quote unquote, always works. Only for Philomena to just deadpan stare as Fluttershy's failure sits on the plate while she stands there looking dejected. And then Fluttershy gets all grumpy at Philomena. This whole section with Fluttershy and Philomena is played for funny ha-has, but it's also got amazing characterization for Fluttershy. Constant facial expression changes that perfectly show her mindset and thinking. We might even consider her behavior arrogant, as she expects things to work and is kind of upset when she's outsmarted. She looks down on animals just as much as she cares for them due to how the world works outside of the Everfree Forest, and how ponies are doing so much for animals, it makes them seem less intelligent than they are. This type of attitude, whether I'm reading too much into it or not, isn't as much of a thing later, with Fluttershy's animal friends being far more capable and helpful and kind. Except Angel. That bunny sucks. Fluttershy introduces a hummingbird she took care of once to be a friend for Philomena. Trying to use a familiar creature to create ease and allowing her to more easily help Philomena is a very smart idea. But these tactics are also kind of terrifyingly manipulative, if we weren't talking about animals anyway. But even still, we know how intelligent animals are despite everything I've been saying about how Fluttershy thinks about them. Like, the cows can talk and most animals can perfectly understand their pony owners or friends, even if only Fluttershy understands them back. Whatever, I'm getting off topic, but Philomena seems to genuinely enjoy the new company, which is adorable. Fluttershy becomes the Disney princess and starts singing with the birds. She also sings the MLP theme song as a fourth wall break. Again, she's just stealing all of Pinky's shtick right now. Man, I do not miss gross out humor in like older cartoons. Fluttershy takes Philomena into the bathroom and turns on what she calls a humidifier, but Fluttershy, that's a radiator. And those don't produce steam, they run on steam. At least the older ones do. It's supposed to work with like a boiler that pumps steam into it, and then it generates heat through some fancy thermal who's-a-what's-it. I'm not a scientist. Point is, this technology feels out of place again, but also isn't what it's supposed to be? Maybe there are humidifiers that look like this, but it's also not connected to anything, so I'm not entirely sure how it's generating anything at all. Unless this small valve down here is connected to the wall, and we can't see it because this is a 2D plane. Man, I'm overthinking everything in this episode, huh? When Fluttershy thinks the steam is helping, she gets excessively happy and expectant. So it looks like Fluttershy joins the group in the I need validation club. Pinky makes ponies happy, as her being able to make them happy validates her as an individual. Twilight wants Celestia's validation. Rainbow Dash wants the Wonderbolt's validation. Rarity's entire life and career is validation. And Applejack had the entirety of episode 4 to demonstrate that she needs her own validation, that she's capable and reliable for others. Without these things, they all enter into depressive states. Fluttershy never demonstrated anything like this before, so we learn more new things about her every single second in this episode. It's pretty good. Unlike the new things we learn about Celestia, this doesn't contradict her current demonstrated character either. It just shows that she puts her entire self into her efforts to help the critters, and when she can't do so, she gets panicked and overwhelmed. And the next chunk of the episode is just Fluttershy trying a bunch of different things, so I'll go through those. First up is aromatherapy. Pretty sure this falls into pseudoscience and not medicine. Scents might have an effect on some things, but I haven't heard of anything definitive, and it's especially not good for treating things like actual diseases or injuries. I'm pretty sure if it helps with anything, it'll be like mental and not physical, so not sure why she's trying this. Next is a warm bath, but Philomena just absorbs it like a sponge. 90% of Philomena's physical reactions are insane, and if she can do this just to mess with people, that's kind of horrifying. And next is ointment. No funny quip or interesting anecdote, just ointment. Put down the knife. Fluttershy, please, we can talk about this. Calm down. She also has surgical tape, which all she did was like tape down the feathers. What did she use the scalpel for? Probably to cut the tape, but I'm still worried at everything she does. Also, Angel Bunny is helping out still. He's being strangely nice this episode. So despite all my claims and talking earlier about Fluttershy, she does admit and acknowledge that she tried everything she could think of to help and take care of Philomena, but feels like she just made it worse. Demonstrating some great maturity, and we know Fluttershy is 1 year older than Pinkie, so maybe Fluttershy is the oldest and most mature. Probably not. If I had to guess their ages, not their actual number ages, but like the order of their age, it'd probably be like Pinkie's the youngest, then Rainbow, then Fluttershy, Twilight, Applejack, and then Rarity. Based almost entirely off of their maturity and perceived age I have for them. So no real evidence, just headcanon. I'll dive into their ages again during the upcoming episode, delving into their backstory with a Sonic Rainboom, but yeah, we'll get to that then. Twilight appears and scares the bejesus out of Fluttershy. Twilight's here to thank Fluttershy for being a great guest and conversationalist for Celestia, because as usual, Fluttershy is the only one who does things correctly, which is extra funny since this is the episode she messes up in. Twilight gives Fluttershy a reality check. As Twilight is freaking out and Fluttershy tries to justify her actions, Twilight reminds her that, quote, Philomena doesn't belong to you, and you didn't ask for permission, basically reminding Fluttershy that actions have consequences. But Fluttershy keeps deflecting as she believes that helping an animal is always the right decision no matter what. Twilight does pull back slightly to acknowledge that Fluttershy had good intentions, and she understands why she did it, but that they need to return Philomena. Oh no, the guards decided to do their job. Twilight breaks out the worst lying I've ever seen in my life, and the guards just kinda let her push them out. Why did they come here? Twilight thanks them for keeping her in the loop, and yet why did she need to be? Celestia would have likely wanted her help, no? Yet they make no remark to suggest that, and they don't even try to stick around to seek information. Man, these guards suck at their job. Twilight exclaims that they can't return Philomena now because Fluttershy has no idea what Celestia will do when she finds out that Fluttershy took her, to which Fluttershy correctly asks, do you? To which Twilight enlightens us to an interesting fact. She doesn't know either, which means Twilight and the main six have zero idea what Celestia will do as punishment for various things. The only punishment we've seen Celestia dish out was in episode 13 with Rainbow and Applejack cheating at a race, to which her decree was just that they have to run more to help knock the leaves down. Hardly scarring. But Twilight will now list effectively 2 punishments that Celestia has only ever used in life and death situations. Punishment 1, banished from Equestria. Celestia only did this when her sister got violent and tried to forcibly seize the throne and expunge daylight from the world. Not really similar. Secondly, throw in a dungeon. She did this to Tyrek for trying to... which, as we see, would have vastly changed the entire worldscape. Hardly the same situation. The last one is just being banished and then put in a dungeon where you're banished to, but that's kind of Tyrek again. Twilight's not very creative. Fluttershy questions if the princess would actually do that, and Twilight acknowledges that no, it's not likely, but asks if Fluttershy wants to risk it. Bruh. From what we know, Celestia never punished Twilight during her student days, and even when Twilight nearly nuked Canterlot in her backstory, she didn't get punished. Instead, Celestia was like, hey yo, you strong AF, be my pupil. The weird image they have of Celestia in their heads, I want to know how it got there to begin with. We see with Luna in season 2 that 1,000 years ago, the sisters did act a bit more harsh, but it's been so long, and the main six wouldn't have known about that, other than maybe Twilight, but Twilight has seen the current Celestia firsthand more than most ponies. That being said, Twilight's case is an overreaction and irrational fear born from her own insecurities and failures that caused problems when younger, and decided that she needs to be perfect, and thus placed far more stress on herself than Celestia ever did. But the other 5? I don't get it. The duo decide to make Philomena better before they return to the princess, so that way she won't be mad, because lying and withholding info from someone always makes them less mad. Anyway, Twilight puts the pill into Philomena's mouth, and Philomena looks horrified, but will proceed to just kind of vibe. I feel like Philomena is being less obstinate with Twilight because Twilight is closer to Celestia. Wait, speaking of which, how the hell does Twilight not know Philomena? Or more specifically, what Philomena is? Has Celestia not introduced them and explained everything during the 10 years Twilight was a student at the academy? Did Celestia not bring Philomena into a lesson about magical creatures or something? This conflict feels a little bit contrived if I'm being real. Twilight curses Philomena with the cone of shame. Let us shame the bird. Shame! 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 Jokes aside, Philomena genuinely hates the cone, and now I feel bad. The Doctor duo should also feel bad. Twilight calls it tough love, but they don't know what Philomena is, so how do they know that this is what she needs? Medicine is one of the major don't generalize fields. Medication and treatment functions very differently for different people. I've taken a med that harmed me, but my sibling got better, and I've also taken a lot of meds that made me worse, but make other people better. So, I'm not sure how it functions in the animal and veterinary world, but I imagine it's even more strict considering how varied species are. And when there's a lot of variance with humans alone, that's That's kind of insane, right? And so Twilight's doing some animal abuse. Locked Philomena in a cage, placing them in a cone, force feeding them a strange substance. It's soup, but how do they know said soup won't harm Philomena? All the while, Twilight wears a menacing grin. She gets villainous when she's desperate. If Celestia saw how she was acting, would she be happy? No. Celestia would tell Twilight to calm down, think, and seek help when she needs it. You know how I know that? Because in season 7, when Twilight asks for advice, Celestia wants her to trust herself. And if she needs help, Celestia will be there. Granted, that's using future Celestia to justify current Celestia, but Celestia's character is consistent as heck up until the rant episode that I'm gonna get to. So, I'm giving myself this one. Feel free to disagree. Philomena dips the hell out of that house. Run, Philo, run! And we get another Benny Hill chase scene just like in episode 3. And Philomena just sort of stunts on the pair constantly. Another way to demonstrate that she's smarter than they expect. The guards are also looking for her as Philomena just parkours through Ponyville. Like, come on. I know it's a funny joke, but Twilight, you're one of the top 5 smartest ponies in Equestria. You're only naive in terms of social situations and maybe real-world common sense. But this is critical thinking and observation. The things you're really good at. But it's a joke at the end of the day, so What the hell are you two doing? Philomena makes them crash into each other while doing a Scooby-Doo door scene gag, you know, that thing they do in the chase scenes. And you can see Twilight bit her tongue, which is a small but cool detail. Another demonstration of Philomena sharing Celestia's playful nature is Philomena vandalizing her own poster to look like her disguise. I love this bird. The other 3 members of the main 6, Rainbow thought they were racing and flew off, are just kind of loitering around a fountain. That's weird. We're also still not sure who this pony is. One commenter said it could be related to the founding of Ponyville, but I don't know, so we'll go with that for now. This is also just a different statue, so this could be completely unrelated to even that. So I don't know. As Philomena's last feather falls off, she enters drama queen mode. And fucking dies. Just kidding. She explodes. Man, Spike's worst fear is realized. Man, even though I know what's going on, Fluttershy's reaction is enough to make me tear up. She thinks she genuinely just saw an animal explode in front of her eyes. Any happiness in her heart burned to ash with Philomena. How come the guards don't know about Philomena? Come on, you snail-brained lobster rolls! Be useful! Twilight's trying to take the blame for Fluttershy, and Fluttershy keeps trying to accept her punishment, before Twilight explains that the princess will go easier on her. So she is somewhat self-aware. Huh. As Fluttershy confesses to taking Celestia's bird, Celestia gets a look of sadness, seeing how broken up Fluttershy is about what she knows isn't that big of a deal. This scene also serves to bait the viewer into thinking Celestia is sad about Philomena, but no, she's sad for Fluttershy. She sees the sorrow and suffering she went through trying to help and do good and being punished for it. Of course, this will all be forgotten in 5 seconds, so maybe it's not that deep. So what does Celestia do? She tells Philomena's ashes to stop fooling around because she's scaring every pony. And thus, rising from the ashes is Philomena the Phoenix. So Fluttershy is completely confused and asking multiple questions as Celestia explains what a phoenix is and does. I doubt you need an explanation, but I'll give you a short version. Firebird, go ash, then not ash. There you go. Celestia even calls Philomena melodramatic, trying to comfort Fluttershy with her playful comments and attitude again. Celestia remarks that Philomena took the opportunity of Fluttershy kidnapping her to pull some pranks on her. So yeah, everything Philomena did was a joke. While cruel to an extent, Fluttershy did take her from her owner, even if it was with good intentions. I think everything up to the exploding was deserved for Fluttershy, but making her think that you died was probably a step too far. And the letter to Celestia, orated edition again, is simple. I should ask and get information before taking matters into my own hands. The direct wording is related to the exact situation they're in, so it's not really good to do a direct quote. But a good way to think about this one is don't mess with others without properly understanding the circumstances, and asking permission is the best way to handle things. Maybe I'm changing the message too much. Regardless of how I'm trying to convey it, the message is good. Information and consent are both important factors in many aspects of life, and the lesson conveys it as such. No notes. Great episode. Good job. Rainbow noted Philomena's playful and prankster nature, and decides to whisper a plan that will call back to the beginning of the episode. Philomena agrees to said plan quite quickly and easily, and Philomena tickles the noses of the guards who start laughing, giving Rainbow the satisfaction of breaking them. Didn't need this callback, but hey, it's a wholesome way to end an otherwise emotionally heavy ending, so okay. Alright, and that was A Bird in the Hoof. All in all, I kind of like this episode. It's pretty chill, it's got some decent comedy, it has a really good emotional core, so I think I'm just going to give this one a 7 out of 10 like the previous episode. They finally delve more into Celestia here, which is really nice, and that's about it. I've got a lot more stuff to talk about with Celestia in the future, but for now I'm just going to leave everything a bit more curt, because honestly I don't have a lot of ending thoughts for this episode. It's just a nice episode, got some good stuff going on. That's about it.